Greetings and salutations, fellow book readers. This is Mark, and the book I will review today is Tristram Shandy. Before we continue, this is personalized limited edition of Tristram Shandy with leather cover designed and made by me. At the end of the video, I will tell you a couple of ways of how you can get one for yourself if you are interested. Now let's get back to the review. Tristram Shandy, or The Life and Opinions of Tristram Shandy, Gentleman, is a novel written by Laurence Sterne and published between 1759 and 1767. Sterne was an Anglican priest, which probably was a pretty serious and gloomy profession, so his humorous and racy writings might have served as some kind of an outlet. Also, he was born in Ireland, so this might explain some of his sense of humor as well. The Irish connection is also there when the novel, its style, is compared to James Joyce's Ulysses, but it might be all coincidental. Sterne was probably an influence on Joyce, who appreciated his own Irishness very much, as can be seen from reading his novels. Further, Sterne was an abolitionist, and some of it is visible in Tristram Shandy, the novel. He lived at the time when slavery was legal and probably at its peak, perhaps not so visible inside the countries practicing it, but rather in their colonies. America was still a British colony. At the same time, it was the age of enlightenment, with Voltaire and Rousseau, and the beginning of the struggle for human rights and dignity, and all of it must have influenced Sterne and his thinking. What is Tristram Shandy about? It is about the life of Tristram Shandy, with as little as possible mention of the title character, autobiography without much own biography included. The book's structure is somewhat chaotic. In a word, my work is digressive and it is progressive too, and at the same time. It could be called Seinfeld of the 18th century, a book about nothing and at the same time everything. A bit of the plot. The plot is somewhat chaotic journey through events and details directly or indirectly relating to the life of Tristram Shandy. A white bear. Very well. Have I ever seen one? Might I ever have seen one? Am I ever to see one? Ought I ever to have seen one? Or can I ever see one? If I should see a white bear, what should I say? If I should never see a white bear, what then? Did my father, mother, uncle, aunt, brothers, or sisters ever see a white bear? What would they give? How would they behave? How would the white bear have behaved? Is he wild, tame, terrible, rough, smooth? This is a sample of the writing style. Besides Tristram Shandy, the other important characters, which seem to be mentioned more than Shandy himself, are his father Walter and Uncle Toby. Then there is Shandy's mother Elizabeth, Dr. Slap, Uncle Toby's servant Trim, and individual named Yorick, who is some type of religious minister, and I got a feeling he might be a bit of the older Sterne himself. At least portrays some of his personality. The narration begins with the moment of conception of Tristram, while his parents are copulating and having a discussion at the same time, and then the book goes into describing the before-mentioned characters. Next volume focuses on Uncle Toby, his military career, and the life-altering wound to the groin he received during one of the campaigns. There is also the argument between Tristram's mother and father concerning the upcoming birth, whether to use a female maid, mother's preference, or doctor, father's choice, to perform the child delivery. The narration begins with the moment of conception of Tristram, while his parents are copulating, and having a discussion at the same time. And then the book goes into describing the before-mentioned characters. Next volume focuses on Uncle Toby, his military career, and the life-altering wound to the groin he received during one of the campaigns. There's also the argument between Tristram's mother and father concerning the upcoming birth, whether to use a female maid, mother's preference, or a doctor, father's choice, to perform the child delivery. The doctor invented a little gadget to get the baby out of the womb, and it is tested on Uncle Toby, with results contrary to what was expected. And even though they still decide to use the contraption during the birth, which predictably does some damage. And as the consequence, there is a discussion about the importance of a good nose, to which Sterne dedicates many pages and returns to it on various occasions. After the traumatic birth, almost fatal to the young Tristram, surges the confusion about his name, the discrepancy between what was intended by his father and what was actually registered in the records. In later chapters, the book moves forward to Tristram's father worrying about the young boy's education, doing a lot of planning for it, but very little actual educating. Then there is an accidental circumcision, which adds more trauma to the young Tristram's already complicated life. The last chapters focus on Uncle Toby's amorous games with a local widow, interrupted by the descriptions of military campaigns and how the accidental groin wound came about, and further the widow's worries about the wound's possible impediments to her future sexual pleasures. And that's the plotless plot of Tristram Shandy. What are my thoughts about Tristram Shandy? I liked it, but probably not enough to read it again. I enjoyed it for what it was, a lot of rambling made bearable by the humor and comic situations. Somewhere in the middle of the novel, Sterne finally discloses his writing process. That of all the several ways of beginning a book, which are now in practice throughout the known world, I am confident my own way of doing it is the best. I am sure it is the most religious, for I began with writing the first sentence and then trusting to Almighty God for the second, which is basically writing whatever comes to your mind and hoping that in the end all of it will make some kind of sense. It probably is a bit more complex and planned, but not by much. In writing, it is called stream of consciousness, basically flying by the seat of your pants, improvising and inventing as you go. I think the whole idea of the writing process of the book was nicely relayed in the cinema adaptation of Tristram Shandy, titled A Cock and a Bull Story, which could have been a very good title for the novel as well. The plot of the film is the process of filming the adaptation of Tristram Shandy. It is an enjoyable picture. Also, the film's title refers to the closing lines of the book. "Lad," said my mother, "what is all this story about?" "A cock and a bull," said Yorick, "and one of the best of its kind I ever heard." There are a lot of digressions and constant going of the subject and returning to it various times later in the book. It is somewhat premeditated, and Sterne is well aware of it and even implies it is done on purpose. Digressions, incontestably, are the sunshine. They are the life, the soul of reading. Take them out of this book, for instance, you might as well take the book along with them. One of the differences in Tristram Shandy, when comparing it to other biographies, is that it starts at the moment of conception rather than birth. This distinction probably was to make it more original and also to give more space and prominence to the other characters. So there are a lot of intimate details as supposedly witnessed by the unborn Tristram. Besides the moments and circumstances of conception and birth, there are his parents considering baptizing him before he is born, which would include injection of holy water into the womb, and unborn Tristram is absolutely against it. I also find the full title interesting, The Life and Opinions of Tristram Shandy, which might be to warn the reader that the book will not be a diary-like journal, but life as seen, analyzed and remembered by the title character. I have undertaken, you see, to write not only my life, but my opinions also, hoping and expecting that your knowledge of my character and of what kind of a mortal I am by the one would give you a better relish for the other. As you proceed further with me, the slight acquaintance which is now beginning betwixt us will grow into familiarity, and that, unless one of us is in fault, will terminate in friendship.